Amazon staffing coordinator by day, professional resume writer, and certified UMAP coach by night. Caitlin created Caitlin May Consulting to offer a competitive edge and advantage to the other 95% of determined, qualified job seekers who have been ignored by recruiters, passed up by hiring managers, and are just looking to catch a break. As a recruiter turned resume writer and job coach, she has the inside scoop on how recruiters and employers go about hiring their employees and exactly what they are looking for. She has helped hundreds of job seekers transform their resumes to documents that shout, "Pick me," and land interview after interview.
Welcome to Fox Talks Business Podcast with your host, Tanya Fox. Tanya has been an entrepreneur for over 20 years, owning retail, service, and franchise. She holds no punches and is never afraid to talk about the nitty-gritty. Together, you'll explore the good, the bad, and the motivational of business life, turning obstacles into opportunities and failures into successes. So grab your favorite drink and let's have some fun. Here's your host, speaker, crafter, and collaborator, Tanya Fox.
Happy Tuesday, Foxy listener. Thank you so much for tuning in to episode 67. Just before we get started today, I wanted to send a quick message out to say thank you so much for the overwhelming response we've been getting from our Facebook and Instagram lives all about collaboration. I have so enjoyed hearing from you, hearing your ideas, and being able to brainstorm together. So keep them coming in. Many of you know that I have put on a mastermind course, and you've been asking how you can get involved. I'm excited to announce that we have opened the doors to another mastermind. It's a 6-week program. And if you just head to our website, foxtalksbusiness.ca/mastermind, you can find all of the details. And as always, we always want to hear what your thoughts were and your takeaways were to episodes. So you can always shoot me a message or respond to one of our posts on Facebook, Instagram, and of course, LinkedIn. Now, let's get started talking to our amazing guest, Caitlin Uten, on resumes, recruiters, and your business. So thank you so much for joining me on the show, Caitlin.
Thank you for having me.
So tell us a little bit about your background, how you kind of got to where you are.
Yeah, so I, graduated from college. I kind of I knew that I wanted to get into HR. So kind of already while I was in college, I was doing like internships and things to kind of get an idea if that's really what I wanted to do. And it turns out that I, enjoyed it. So it kind of worked out. And so I was lucky to be one of those people that kind of already knew, their path and things like that when they were in school. So when I got out of school, my first job, I was working for a recruiting firm, kind of doing like the front desk and managing everything. So I got to see a taste of how the recruiting cycle works and without having to get, jump right into it and things like that. So I was lucky that I was able to kind of move up. And so from there, I started recruiting in the medical field. And that it really gave me a lot of experience because it's a very competitive industry. So I really learned, sales and recruiting and a lot of different things. So once I moved from there, I got into oil and gas recruiting. So a totally different, but also a lot of experience. So then pretty much I just kind of have been, I guess we could say job hopping, but I wouldn't say that to people, I think I see myself as kind of more of exploring options before I came to Amazon to figure out, what I wanted to do. So eventually it led me to finding my current position with Amazon that I'm doing right now. And I also really enjoyed kind of what I also do, obviously, for my business is writing resumes and coaching clients and things like that. So that came naturally, just from being on LinkedIn and someone had reached out to me randomly and saw that when I was working in an oil and gas company, asked for advice on how to update their resume. So it kind of just, fell into my lap that this is a need that people actually want to hear from somebody who has recruiting experience and wants to get an idea of what I see. So I kind of have been just going off of that and, learning how to connect more with people who are really seeking these resources that I have. So so pretty much that's how I got to where I am today. And so during the day I get to work at Amazon and, talk to people all day and help them find jobs. And then at night I get to coach people and help them with interviewing and their resumes and things like that. So all very people oriented for sure.
Absolutely. So what is one of the tools you think is most underused for people, when they're doing networking, whether they're either searching for a job themselves or whether they're searching, to find staff?
For sure. I love LinkedIn. So every time I talk to somebody, I always recommend, getting your profile updated on LinkedIn, using it and going on there daily and really making connections and, building connections with people on there, just to, even if it's something, a fresh graduate that is not sure of where they want to go, or I think that is the best place. You can literally just reach out to anybody. It's virtual. It's not, you don't have to be nervous because it's not like you can see anybody's face or anything. So, just don't be afraid to reach out and ask people for help, because especially on the LinkedIn community, I learned that really just kind of putting yourself out there is going to be the biggest task. And that's the thing too. People don't want to be too pushy and, want to kind of wait it out when they apply to positions, but that's really kind of the opposite these days. Is you want to get your face in front of somebody and let them know that you are eager and that you're interested and things like that. And I think that that's kind of where the disconnect is with a lot of job seekers right now.
And so there is that sort of fine line between like feeling like you're being too pushy and calling all of the time. So, and I know it varies obviously with every company and every person, but what would you recommend is, a way to go about doing that where you don't seem like you're,
Right. I think the best way a lot of people could do is really just, doing the work for the recruiter. Not when you're reaching out to them, don't, start off with, oh, hey, can you look at my profile, or here's my resume. Can you look and let me know if you, think I'd be a good fit for a job? Do the work for them. Go on the company website, find the job posting, let them know, like, I've already done the work to find this posting. Here's, maybe a couple reasons of why I'm qualified and I would really, like to work for this company for XYZ. You know what I mean? Like, give them a reason already to want to reach back out to you, because you have to be aggressive. And then as you don't want to harass them, but really if they're you just give them a couple days to respond, and maybe I would respond in like a week and then follow up that way. And then even still, if there's a certain company that you're targeting, if you don't get a response from one person, who knows, keep trying a couple different people until you do get a response. And sometimes, at first it can feel awkward and feel like you're bugging people. But hey, if you're a recruiter, that's your job. You're supposed to be finding the best candidates, and you're, by being aggressive and showing that you're ready to work, you're showing them, hi, your best candidates right here, pretty much. So I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, you did. Absolutely. So when someone is writing a resume, because we're coming into this weird time in the world right now where there's a lot of people that used to be entrepreneurs that are kind of getting back into the working world just because of circumstances and stuff like that. What's the number one thing that you find that people are lacking on their resume to sort of make them stand out?
I think the number one thing would be, aside from, when you're putting together your resume, a lot of people will just say, okay, so here's my job description. Here's the day-to-day duties that we do. But really, we want to see the big projects that you've worked on, So when I came in and started working on this project, it had the what am I trying the percentage of productivity and things like that was around 20%. But then after I started working and, turned everything around, show them really in percentages and numbers how you contributed to these projects and to the things that you do. And it is hard. So I tell people, every time somebody starts a new job, I say, okay, as soon as you start a new job, get just a Word document out and start listing all of the things that you're taking on, that you're working on. Because when you're at a company for 20 plus years and all of a sudden you find yourself unemployed, now you have to go back 20 years to figure out, oh, I did so many projects. So I think that that's kind of the number one thing. And it is hard. A lot of people say to me, their main thing is they can't really put that into words, their accomplishments. And even if it is like, even customer service roles, there's different ways that you can go about showing how you made an impact on, a customer and things like that. It's kind of just having that deep thought kind of going into what you've done more than just your job description, I think is what really helps to stand out on the resume.
And I think that's true too, because I think quite often, like even when I've looked at resumes, like I get really tired of seeing literally the job description, like somebody would post it, right? Like you're like, great, but what did you do? I know what you were supposed to do, but kind of what you actually did. So I like that tip. So, we talked a little bit about like being on LinkedIn and working with your profile there. How did you use that for yourself personally?
Well, yeah. So I pretty much, once again, being a recruiter, I was already on LinkedIn. That's kind of where I used to source a lot of my executive clients and things like that when I was on there. So I was already on there once in a while, but then once people started reaching out to me, I guess, I was just kind of posting every once in a while that I had job openings and things like that. And so I guess that kind of got me a little bit more visibility. So literally just doing the littlest things by updating your profile and posting really can people, everybody has something interesting that they could share, throughout their day job, even if they don't think they do. It's interesting when I talk to people that think that, what they do is no big deal. To me, it blows my mind. So you never know. So really, I kind of just, started going on there daily and just making connections, I think was the main thing. So when I decided that I wanted to start doing more resume writing, I went on LinkedIn, started looking up people that were also resume writers that were kind of in the, steps where I would like to be. So I started kind of just doing interviews and reaching out to them and being like, hey, so I'm really looking to I'm fresh, I'm really looking to get into this resume world. I, obviously compliment, flattery always works well when trying to get people to give you tips and tricks. But with each call, I, kind of honed in, I would look at their profile and really hone in on what questions I would like to ask them. And from the last couple of years, I've gained so many resources. I've gained mentor opportunities. So and now where I was confident enough to be able to go on my own. So once again, it's really just about not being afraid to get out there and ask, because I did have some weird responses when I was getting out on LinkedIn and reaching out to people. Some people were like, well, are you trying to like take if I'm going to give you tips and tricks, are you going to take away my clientele kind of thing? So so I had to tweak the way, because clearly I was being a little bit too aggressive my conversations. But I really kind of found the community on LinkedIn to be very open and very like receptive to helping, even if it's in the same industry. So that's pretty much the first step that I tell people, like new graduates or somebody looking to make a career change in a different play or a different industry that they're not familiar with. I always encourage them to kind of go and do that phone, just a quick informational interview, just really kind of asking them about what they do day to day and how they grew to where they are. It's kind of just getting to know them and building those connections from there. So I got really lucky that I was able to do that and build my business to where it is now.
And so flipping a little bit onto the other side of it, because, we talked about like a lot of entrepreneurs are sort of going back into the, corporate world, but there's also a lot of entrepreneurs now that are seeing, big staff changes that are happening, because they've, either had to lay a bunch of people off and people have moved on, or, the world just naturally changes. So why would a company look at having a recruiter as part of their team? What are some of the benefits? Like, what are some of the things that you can help a business out with?
Right, yeah. So, I mean, recruiters are kind of the people behind the scenes that find those candidates that really are gonna, because they're able to see the job description in a way that hiring managers know, okay, so I want this type of person in my role, but they don't really know what that person does on a daily basis and things like that. So I've had so many hiring managers will just send me somebody else's resume and be like, this was the last person in the role, find me somebody like this. And so for us, you have to have a creative mindset, being like, okay, so looking at their resume compared to, you know, the duties that they're doing, we need to figure out what kind of person is this? Is this a person that works well on their own? Is this a person that works well with a team? Like, do they, you know, do they have upward mobility potential? Like, these are things that a lot of companies, when they're just, if you don't have a recruiter and you don't have somebody on the back end to kind of sort through these people, to kind of ask those questions, it's really going to take a lot longer for you to find good, you know, good employees and things like that. And even at Amazon right now, we're doing kind of, I'm just doing mass hiring. So I don't get to have those one-on-one conversations with people. They just put in an application, and then the first time they see us in person, we're just taking their IDs and pretty much saying, okay, so once your drug screen and background check comes back, you got a job. There's no real interview. So there is a big kind of the turnover for employees, because, you know, we give them as much information as possible about, but it's just maybe their personality doesn't match. Maybe they don't enjoy being on the warehouse floor. You know what I mean? So it's really we're kind of like deep dive and mystery solvers all in one, and people that really have to understand the personalities behind the job, really.
And then you probably have a good overview too of all of the other teams, so you can sort of weed through, you know, all of those resumes, because we all know, I mean, you put a posting out and, you know, depending what,
Yeah.
I mean, right now, I'm sure it's going to be crazy that, you know, you put a posting out and you can get, you know, 150, 200 applications. So trying to weed through that can be a little bit, you know, daunting and boring.
For sure.
So what's one tip that you can give somebody if they're out looking for a job, you know, they've gone to somebody, they feel good about their resume and they have an interview. What is the one, I don't really want to say mistake, but what's the, you know, the one thing that people shouldn't do in an interview? And then let's go to the other side of it. And what's one thing that would really set them apart in an interview?
Ooh, good question. So I think, okay, so I have two for the major things that I see for people, what not to do in an interview. So one is riding the line between being over confident, seeming cocky, like, you know, I'm just here to interview, I don't really need this job type of thing, which you never really want to put off those vibes. And another one in the interview is kind of getting long-winded. So answering a question and just kind of going on, and which sometimes, and trust me, I'm guilty of this too. So that comes back to kind of being able to practice in a mirror and do those little things before you get into the interview. So you're not just rambling on, and the interviewer is like, well, I didn't really get to the rest of my questions, but okay, thank you. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
So I think those are the two main ones. And yeah, of course, we want you to be confident. We want you to show that you're enthusiastic. But I think sometimes when I see people that are overly confident, don't show me that they're excited about this position. They're just like, yeah, I can do it. You know what I mean? Like seeming like they're above the role kind of, and that's definitely a big turn off. But I think a real big thing in the interview is showing your enthusiasm and really being able to articulate why you are the person for the job. So I think a big thing that stands out is doing your homework before you go into the role. So researching the company, or even if you can find the name of who you'll be interviewing with before you go in. I think something that I did before I went into one of my jobs, I literally went on the company website, I found like the person, I think he was like the VP that I was going to be interviewing with at the time, and it said something about like his hobbies, like he liked to, you know, one of his favorite jobs that he did was got to work in Alaska or something. So kind of at the end of the interview, I was like, oh yeah, so I read that you, like, one of your favorite projects was working in Alaska, so what did you do there? You know what I mean? So they're like, oh wow, she really did her research. So I think that that's something that can for sure set you apart, just knowing that that, you know, you've done your research and looked up on the company and the people that you interviewed with.
Yeah. And I think that's true too, because those people I know for myself, whenever I was doing hiring, were the ones that tend to stick in my head a little bit better when they actually could tell me something about the, you know, about whatever company I was hiring them for.
Right.
So I think that's a good tip.
Yeah. And I was going to say, and there's so many, you'd be surprised how many times I would call people that would apply to job postings and just, and this is even pre-interview, but everyone set up your voicemails, because we still leave voicemails. I know it's old school. I tell my coworkers all the time, I'm like, you know, I probably wasted about a year of my life just leaving voicemails for people that will never listen to them, and it probably missed out on good opportunities because of it. And on the other end, just people answering their phone when they are not prepared to talk to hiring manager or a recruiter and things like that. And you know, you can't control what's going on in this situation, but let us leave a voicemail. You know, we can always call you back and things like that. So it's just kind of being aware that when you are job searching and applying to positions, be aware that people are going to be reaching out to you if they like what they see. So have that mindset whenever you get a phone call, like, okay, this could be a hiring manager. This could be somebody that is an influencer. You know what I mean? So instead of just, hi, who is this? What you called me. So those are always really awkward.
So that leads me into my next question, because, you know, I just think back over, you know, some of the, you know, hiring that I've done and some of the people that come in, and there's always those stories that are, you know, that are just so funny to hear. So do you, like, and I know I'm putting you totally on the spot, but just off the top of your head, can you think of something that you were just like, I can't believe this actually happened?
Oh my goodness.
While you're thinking of it, I'll sort of lead you in maybe with a little bit of a story of what made me think of this, because I remember doing interviews and it was for a warehouse position. So there was heavy lifting involved and stuff like that. And they needed to have steel-toed boots. That was like one of the prerequisites that was out there. And one of the guys that came to interview was wearing a bathing suit, like not even boxer shorts, but like a Speedo bathing suit, and didn't understand why I wasn't interviewing because he had the steel toe boots. So he was wearing like a Speedo and a tank top and steel toe boots. Like, it was the most ridiculous outfit I ever had in my life. But I had to talk to him because I was like, I just got to see what is going to come out of your mouth. So that's the one story that I always remember thinking, oh my gosh. So I imagine in your career, you have a lot of them, but can you think of any that might be a good learning lesson? Like, my lesson on that is put some pants on.
Oh, I have a good one from recently. So this candidate came in looking ahead. So how the process works at Amazon, you'll go onto our website, and then you'll, search by your location. So if I'm in Oklahoma City, we'll go and search by where we are. And so then based on your location, it shows you what jobs are available. So you'll go in, and if you want part-time or full-time, and you'll pick the shift that you want. And then once you pick that, it'll set you up for a time to come in for an appointment. So, people will come in all the time asking him questions and things like that. So this particular person came in and was ready, had an appointment. So of course we're going to ask for your forms of ID. So we said, okay, so do you have your 2 forms of ID? And of course he didn't have the correct IDs. So we had to say, okay, well, so unfortunately we're going to have you come back at a different time since you're not prepared. And so he basically threw a hissy fit and was very unhappy. And so we're like, okay, sorry, it's part of policy, whatever. And so he asked my coworker to borrow her phone so we can call his ride. And so while still being very rude, but she was nice enough to let her use her phone. And so, he calls his ride or whatever, and he's outside of our office just cussing up a storm, telling other candidates as they're walking in how we do not have our stuff together and how we're so disorganized and why we want to work for him. So while he's out there waiting for his ride calls my coworker, and my coworker answers. It turns out to be his mom. So my coworker is like, hey, just so you know, your son is being very rude. He's outside of our office, cussing up a storm, and this is not very professional at all. And his mom was mortified. So I can just imagine the conversation that they had once he got in the car. So I'd say the moral of the story is there. Don't ask to borrow an employer's phone if you're going to be rude. Like, that's just one of many.
Don't get your mom to come pick you up, because that mom was like, I want you out of this house. How did you mess this up?
Right? The one opportunity you probably had to get a job. But yes, that's one of many that we get to deal with.
Oh, that's awesome. So if someone, I love those stories because they're just, yeah.
Right? Can't make it up.
Exactly. So if someone's is, looking to get out into the workforce, or has been out and kind of job searching and hasn't had much luck, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you, so that they can maybe kind of up their game a little bit?
Yeah, so obviously I'm always on LinkedIn, like I mentioned, but I also have a website. My company is Caitlin May Consulting, so it's CaitlinMayConsulting.com, and then on there they can fill out a little, questionnaire that if they want to reach out to me for whichever they're looking for. I mean, I do everything from helping to interview prep to, job coaching, and obviously resume is a big one. I think, a lot of people enjoy kind of being able to just talk through things, just even over the phone. It's really eye-opening for people to, once, they see what I have written on the resume versus what they have had previously from the job descriptions. I think it's a confidence booster. You know what I mean? Like, if you're out of work for a long time, it's not, because it's hard not to think that it's you, so right. There's so many things that go into job searching, and especially when you are searching, when your confidence gets shot. So it's even just reaching out to somebody like, a recruiter like me or anybody on LinkedIn to ask for advice, I think is the first step in kind of at least getting an idea of, okay, just ask, just find somebody at that company that you're looking to talk to. And obviously you're not always going to have luck the first time, but I think if you're persistent in kind of going after what you want, then you need to put yourself out there. And that's kind of the main thing for job seekers. They can't be kind of doing the apply and pray method, that a lot of people, well, I've applied to over 200 jobs. Well, yeah, you clicked one button that said easy apply. So I mean, yeah, it sounds, and when you put it like that, it does, I get you now. It's definitely would be stressful.
Yeah. It's like a kid saying, I cleaned my room. No, you threw everything into your closet. Yeah. Not the same thing. Not quite exactly. The same thing. That's awesome. It has been such a pleasure. We'll make sure that we have all of the quick links on our blog post that we put out where people can find you. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day. It was so much fun, and I look forward to staying connected with you.
Thanks so much, Tanya.
Awesome. I'll be honest, it's been 2 decades since I've had to write a resume, and I wouldn't even know where to start, to be honest with you, which is why I'm grateful that there are people like Caitlin out there who can help you get something like that off the ground. But maybe you're thinking, hey, wait a minute, I'm an entrepreneur. I don't need to know how to write a resume. But maybe a recruiter is something that you need to consider for your business. We all know how much time it takes to put ads out and weed through all of the applications you get and even do initial interviews. A recruiter could be somebody that you hire for your company that can help streamline that, but also help you find the best candidate that's out there. There are even some recruiters that you can go to and say, look, I'm looking for this type of person. Do you have one in your database? So definitely head to LinkedIn and search for people who are recruiters that are in your area and reach out to them. They might have your perfect candidate just sitting there waiting for you to call. And no matter what you're doing, whether you're writing a resume yourself, whether you're trying to find the perfect resume to come across your desk, make sure that you're having fun. Because if you're not having fun, why are you doing it?